If we divide LeBron James's career into 3 parts, each part would suffice for a first-ballot Hall of Fame career. LeBron is the best old guy to ever play, as nobody was this productive past the age of 39. However, LeBron is also the best young player ever, because nobody was as good as him as a teenager. When he was a young phenom who produced some of the most athletic plays in NBA history, and the incompetent management that ruined the first part of his legendary career. When LeBron was a junior in high school, he was so much better than everybody else that he petitioned for a change to the NBA's draft eligibility rules in an attempt to enter the 2002 NBA draft at the age of 17. But the NBA rejected his proposal.
It was unanimous. 1-0.
So he finished his senior season at St. Vincent St. Mary as the most dominant and most decorated high school player since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. LeBron was the most hyped non-NBA basketball player in history, with media experts considering him better than 75% of the current NBA talent before James even played a single game.
LeBron James is the best high school basketball player I have ever seen, and I think as a 17-year-old, he's better than Kobe Bryant was at the same age.
However, when Cleveland did draft him first overall in the 2003 draft, and when James first suited up for the Cavs, it was immediately visible that the hype was justified.
Here he comes the other way. There's your first James Jam of his career.
In his first 2 games, LeBron averaged 23, 8, and 8, and it was clear that he was gonna be a star. James became the 3rd rookie in NBA history to average 25 and 5 for the season, behind Oscar Robertson and Michael Jordan, who were 3 years older than LeBron in their rookie seasons. And despite being the youngest player in the NBA, LeBron was head and shoulders above every other player on his team. Carlos Boozer was a bright spot, along with veteran center Zydrunas Ilgauskas, but that was about it. Nobody on the team could shoot, and the Cavs ranked last in three-point makes and accuracy. However, because of LeBron, who won Rookie of the Year over Carmelo, the Cavs finished 1 win away from a playoff spot, and with 18 more wins than the previous season. In the offseason, the Cavs stalled on a contract extension for Boozer, who averaged 15 points and 11 rebounds, and was their second-best player behind LeBron. So, Boozer then signed with the Utah Jazz, where he would average 19 points and 10 rebounds for the next 6 seasons, with 2 All-Star appearances. But despite a complete lack of shooting and an even weaker roster than the year before, LeBron improved dramatically with 1 season under his belt. James's first step was like nitro, and when he saw the slightest crack in the defense, he was gone, and the result was a thunderous dunk. The combination of speed and the trampolines he had in his legs were mesmerizing, and young LeBron quickly overtook Vince Carter as the best in-game dunker in the NBA. As a sophomore, the King averaged 27, 7, and 7, with over 2 steals per game. The only other player who averaged similar numbers at the age of 20 is Luka Doncic, but Luka did this in the pace and space era, with a ton of spacing, more possessions, and teammates who could shoot. In the 2005 season, other than LeBron, the entire Cavs team averaged just 2.3 made three-pointers per game, as they loaded the paint with traditional stiff big men. With the paint always clogged, much more contact allowed for the defenders, and almost the slowest pace in NBA history, LeBron's 27 points and 7 assists is like 35 points and 10 assists in the modern NBA. And he was doing that while he still couldn't legally buy a beer. The Cavs won 7 more games than the year before, as LeBron carried the team on his shoulders to a 42-40 record, their first winning season in 7 years. However, Cleveland missed the playoffs, again by only 1 win, which resulted in the firing of coach Paul Silas and GM Jim Paxson. Danny Ferry became the new general manager, and Mike Brown became the new head coach, which was the first head coaching and GM job for both. Danny Ferry wanted to bring the best talent to Cleveland, primarily shooters, but the premier players, such as Ray Allen and Michael Redd, signed elsewhere, and Ferry settled for the B-level free agents, signing Larry Hughes, Donyell Marshall, and Damon Jones. But LeBron finally had some shooters to benefit from his drive and kick game. And even though they were far from all-star caliber players, the Cavs improved and finally made the playoffs. James averaged a career-high 31 points, 7 rebounds, and 6.5 assists per game, finishing second in the MVP voting behind Steve Nash, missing out on becoming the youngest MVP in league history. He did, however, win the MVP of the All-Star Game, becoming the youngest player to win that award. In his 3rd season, LeBron also became a phenomenal defender. He had a high IQ, a big body, and cornerback-like quick feet that helped him slide and deny anybody trying to get past him. His trademark chase-down blocks were also on full display.
Blocked him. Blocked by LeBron James.
But what gets forgotten is that young LeBron also had the energy to do the dirty work and really hustle on defense. And in his first playoff series, despite having the better record, the Cavs were the underdogs in the first round against Washington. And their three-headed monster of Gilbert Arenas, Antoine Jamison, and Caron Butler. Many analysts wondered how LeBron would handle the pressure of the playoffs, and he quickly ended all doubt with a 31-11-11 triple-double to win Game 1. The Wizards countered in Game 2, and it seemed like they would take Game 3. But with 14 points in the fourth quarter and 41 overall, James rallied the Cavs from behind, making a game-winning shot with 5 seconds left in the game.
He got it to go!
The Wizards then evened the series, but in Game 5, LeBron hit them with another game winner in a masterful 45-point performance. Game 6 was another overtime nail-biter, with LeBron James tapping Gilbert Arenas on the free throw line, who missed both under pressure.
Arenas misses both.
On the other end, Damon Jones, who Arenas had been trash-talking the whole series over a card game debt, made the game-winning shot, and the Cavs advanced to the second round for the first time in 13 seasons. In the first playoff series of his career, LeBron averaged 35 points per game with 7 rebounds and 6 assists. And in the second round against the defending champion Detroit Pistons, the best defensive team in the NBA, LeBron dragged the Cavs to a Game 7. But that's all he could do. The King averaged 26, 8, and 6 in the series, but the second leading scorer on the Cavs, Ilgauskas, averaged only 11, and that tells you how talented the Cavs were offensively. In the offseason, LeBron started working with trainer Mike Mancias after suffering from back and knee pain. Mancias, a biomechanics specialist, had LeBron working on his body separately from the Cavs' usual training program, which was extremely old-fashioned by today's modern standards. And in the same way LeBron takes time to better himself, it's important we do the same, which is why this episode of Nonstop is brought to you by BetterHelp. And during basketball season, it's easy to lose track of what matters most, yourself. With the NBA now in full swing, it can be a very stressful time for fans. Maybe your team's on a losing streak, or your best player just went down with an injury. Whatever the case, there's really no better way to treat yourself than therapy. Therapy can have so many positive impacts in your life, like improved mental health, better self-awareness, and coping strategies for life's many challenges, like Joel Embiid sitting out yet another game. It's also great for strengthening relationships, because we all have that friend who just won't stop talking about it being their team's year to win it all. So if therapy sounds like something that could be good for you, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you're able to switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/nonstopsports today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/nonstopsports. As LeBron improved and kept getting better, the Cavs didn't. Despite obvious flaws and a lack of talent around LeBron, Cleveland didn't make any significant changes to their roster for the 2007 season, apart from drafting Shannon Brown and Daniel "Boobie" Gibson. But due to LeBron's rise and the continuity of the team, the Cavs got better than the year before, even though their second leading scorer only averaged 14.9 points per game. In the first round of the playoffs, Cleveland swept Washington, and in the conference semis, they got past the Nets in 6 games. But in the conference finals, the Pistons awaited again. In Game 1 of the series, LeBron had a chance to put Cleveland ahead in the closing seconds, but instead, he opted to pass to Donyell Marshall, who missed a three-pointer to give Detroit the win. James took a lot of heat for not taking the shot, even though he was double-teamed and Marshall was wide open.
What is better for LeBron at this point? To take and miss the last shot, or to avoid shooting it altogether and hear the criticism?
The Pistons won the next game as well, and it seemed like the Cavs were cooked. But the Cavs managed to even the series, in what was a prelude to one of the best performances ever seen. In Game 5, LeBron scored the last 25 points for the Cavs and led them to a 109-107 double overtime victory. James scored 29 of his team's last 30 points, hitting one impossible shot after another. James finished with 48 points and 7 assists, directly contributing to 60% of the Cavaliers' points. In Game 6, with a surprising career night from Boobie Gibson, who scored 31 points, the Cavs cruised to victory, making their first ever NBA Finals. And in the finals, the San Antonio Spurs Spurs, the best defensive team in the league, threw everything and the kitchen sink at LeBron because he was the only person they needed to stop. With LeBron not having a consistent jumper yet, the Spurs defended him by using the wall.
LeBron James is not allowed to play one-on-one because the Spurs are sending 2 or 3 guys at him at all times.
Now famous as a Giannis stopping strategy. And with very little shooting, especially after Larry Hughes got hurt, the Cavs couldn't win the title just by giving the ball to LeBron, and Cleveland got swept, even though it was much closer than the 4-0 result would suggest. When LeBron was asked about his offense, he said that Mike Brown was really tough on them defensively, but when it came to offense, they could pretty much do what they wanted. In other words, they were left to figure it out themselves. However, for Cleveland, this season was a huge success, as they went from the worst record in the NBA to the NBA Finals in a span of 4 years. And that was the reason why the Cavs didn't make any significant offseason changes for the second year in a row.
We're not a team where there's new guys on this team. We got the same team, so we've been together 3 years now. So, I think we know every ins and outs about everyone's family, everybody's loves and hates. So,
and the only interesting news was contract extensions for Sasha Pavlovich and Anderson Varejao. But the Cavs were reluctant to give Varejao a new deal, so he opted to hold out and not play until they did, which tells you a lot about the state of the Cavaliers at the time. Varejao was a decent rebounder, but he was a young role player, averaging less than 7 points per game, and yet he was the one that had the leverage to dictate the conditions, as the Cavs were incompetent to add any significant roster upgrades. After several weeks of holdout, the Cavs gave in and offered him a contract extension, and Varejao was set to play in the 17th game of the season against Indiana at home. Because he knew that the Cleveland crowd would boo Varejao when he first subbed into the game, LeBron offered to come off the bench and get subbed in together with the Brazilian center to spare him the negative reaction from the crowd. It was the only time in LeBron's career that he came off the bench until 2023, and it showed his character and leadership. However, it was clear that extending Varejao was not a cause for celebration, as the Cavs struggled to start the season.
Cavs were celebrating to get caught napping, and Jaron Williams goes coast to coast.
Then, in a complete roster overhaul, the Cavs traded Donyell Marshall, Shannon Brown, Drew Gooden, and Larry Hughes for Ben Wallace, Delonte West, Wally Szczerbiak, and the 1995 number 1 pick Joe Smith, which really just felt like a lateral move because the Cavs still had nobody to help LeBron on offense. In fact, offensively, they got worse. Cleveland ranked 16th in offensive rating in 2007, and in 2008, they downgraded to the 20th best offense, which is really an accomplishment to be that bad, with arguably the best offensive player in the league on the team. LeBron led the league in scoring that year with 30 points per game, along with a then career-high 7.9 rebounds and 7.2 assists. In the playoffs, the Cavs once again defeated their favorite customers from Washington, but in the second round, they faced the best regular season team, the Boston Celtics. Led by Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and Defensive Player of the Year Kevin Garnett, the Celtics held LeBron to just 8 for 42 shooting in the first 2 games, as they took a 2-0 lead. But then the Cavs responded with 2 big victories of their own, tying the series.
LeBron James with no regard for human life.
In Game 5, LeBron's 35 points weren't enough.
LeBron is what makes them go, and if we can somehow control him, we control their team.
But with another 30-point performance in Game 6, James and the Cavs forced a Game 7, which turned out to be legendary. Paul Pierce and LeBron traded bucket after bucket in the clutch. But despite the King winning their individual matchup with 45 points compared to Truth's 41, the Celtics won the game by 5 points and advanced. James averaged 27, 6, and 7 in the series, and the next best Cavs scorer was again Ilgauskas, who averaged 12. For the 2009 season, the Cavs traded Damon Jones and Joe Smith for point guard Mo Williams, which was probably the first trade in the LeBron era with a net gain, where we can safely say the Cavs got better. Mo Williams wasn't John Stockton, he wasn't Steph Curry, but he was the first point guard LeBron had that could handle the rock and shoot it, which finally alleviated some ball handling and point creation pressure off him. It only took 6 years, but the Cavs finally managed to string together a roster that that made sense offensively. In 2009, they had a top 5 offense, with a franchise record 66 wins and the best record in the NBA. LeBron won the MVP with 109 out of 121 first-place votes and averages of 28, 7, and 7, and career highs in blocks and free throw percentage. And when the playoffs started, it seemed like it was finally the year Cleveland could go all the way. The Cavs swept Detroit and Atlanta, with LeBron averaging 33 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists across those 8 games. In the first game of the conference finals against Orlando, LeBron had 49 points, but the Cavs bench scored only 5, and the Magic won by 1 point. In Game 2, the Magic nearly won again.
Yes, with 1 second remaining.
But then LeBron did this.
Gets it to LeBron for 3 for the win. Yes! LeBron James at the buzzer!
To cap off a 35-point night. In the next 2 games, James scored 41 and 44, but Orlando won both times.
He fires for the win! The Orlando Magic escape.
In Game 5, the King had a monstrous 37-point, 14-rebound, and 12-assist triple-double to extend the series. But the Magic then won Game 6 and spoiled what could have been a finals duel between LeBron and Kobe. James averaged 38, 8, and 8 in the series, but the Magic always had different players step up every night, and they always had at least one guy that got hot in the fourth quarter, which won them the series. It was a very bitter pill to swallow after such a great regular season.
Congratulations to the Orlando Magic. They played an unbelievable series, and they deserved it. Just didn't have much to say.
And when the offseason began, the Cavs were in desperation mode. LeBron was an upcoming free agent, and they could lose him for nothing if they didn't make a big splash. So they decided to go for a guy who probably makes the biggest splash: Shaquille O'Neal. Ben Wallace and Sasha Pavlovich got traded, and the Cavs also signed free agent guards Anthony Parker and Jamario Moon. But none of those additions really made the team explicitly better. O'Neal was a legend, but he was ring-chasing at that point, overweight, and far from the dominant Lakers Shaq. But before the All-Star break, the Cavs had 13 wins in a row and were far ahead of everybody in the Eastern Conference. Still, Cleveland wasn't done making moves. They traded legendary centers Adrunas Ilgauskas for Antoine Jamison, a 20-point scoring power forward from Washington.
In my opinion, this puts Cleveland over the hump in the East.
The Cavs finished the season with 61 wins, and LeBron repeated as the MVP with another stellar season, averaging 29.7 points, 8.6 assists, and 7.3 rebounds. In the first round, the Cavs easily dispatched the Bulls in 5 games, with LeBron dominating on both ends of the court, leading the Cavs in all 5 major statistical categories. But in the second round, LeBron played against his nemesis, Paul Pierce, and the Celtics, who were even better than they were in 2008. Rajon Rondo became an all-star, Tony Allen was playing regular minutes, and Rasheed Wallace was also there, with enough juice to make noise off the bench. The Cavs had the home court advantage, but failed to capitalize on it, as they allowed Boston to split the first 2 games, before heading to Boston for Games 3 and 4.
LeBron James just never got involved in this game offensively. And I'm not just talking about numbers. It's about his impact and trying to make plays and his aggressiveness. It just wasn't there.
But Game 3 in Boston turned into the LeBron James show from the opening tip-off, putting on a basketball clinic en route to a 38-point masterpiece. Rondo dominated in Game 4 with a 29, 18, 14 triple-double, and the series was tied. But then, in Cleveland, a complete massacre. The Cavaliers' defensive effort was terrible. They seemed to sleepwalk through the final 3 quarters of the game, and by the time Game 5 was over, the Celtics blew them out by 32 points. This game is remembered by Cleveland fans as the Game 5 debacle.
I'm a Cavaliers fan, I just don't understand it. I mean, LeBron, you just can't blame it on LeBron. You can't blame it on LeBron.
It's embarrassing.
It hurts. It hurts, man.
And the worst game of LeBron's playoff career up to that point. The King seemed to have thrown his crown. He wasn't aggressive, and his body language was that of a defeated man, as he only made 3 out of 14 shots for 15 points.
When you give up 30, 30, and 40 for the next 3 quarters, that's not particularly getting it done.
And then in Game 6, it happened again. Yes, LeBron had a big triple-double with 27 points, 19 rebounds, and 10 assists, but he also had 9 turnovers.
James lost it again.
Unbelievable. His 9th turnover of the night.
And yet, it wasn't about any particular number or statistic. Throughout the game, LeBron was quiet and not energetic. It was almost like he already accepted defeat and had mentally checked out. And when LeBron went down the tunnel at TD Garden, he took off the Cavs jersey, and it was an ominous sign that the decision had already been made. The official decision happened a few months later when LeBron organized a TV event to tell the world,
In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
James was treated like a traitor, like an enemy to the entire state of Ohio, and a weak character.
I hope he never wins anything in Miami. He is dead to me.
But in retrospect, it's really hard to blame LeBron for leaving. Not one player he played with was elite at anything other than Varejao as an offensive rebounder. The Cavs had no elite defenders, shooters, scorers, nothing. Then, around year 6, they just started throwing anything at the wall to see if it stuck, bringing in highly overpaid but average players. Throughout his 7 years in Cleveland, LeBron never had a teammate average 20 points per game. And for the first 3 or 4 years, he didn't even have a teammate average more than 15 points per game. The only All-Star LeBron played with was Mo Williams in 2009. And the only reason Mo made the All-Star team was because the Cavs had the best record in the NBA. Yes, the optics of his final 2 games were bad, but LeBron was fed up and tired of carrying that team on his shoulders. The 2007 Cavs team was the worst ever team that made the NBA Finals. And if it wasn't for LeBron, the Cavs would have been a perennial lottery team, which they proved to be after he left, with the worst record in the NBA in 2011. If we don't count his rookie season, in his first stint in Cleveland, LeBron averaged 29, 7, and 7, with nearly 2 steals and a block per game. And in the playoffs, he was slightly better. With 6 All-NBA selections, 2 MVPs, and 1 Finals appearance, LeBron James gave the Cavs a Hall of Fame career in his first 7 seasons. And the greatness of his first stint in Cleveland is highly underrated due to his poor supporting cast.